Hi, welcome back everybody. It's Mike Newton down here at Lytham Golf Academy. I've got an iron utility comparison and also a review for you today, and it's the new Titleist U500 and the U510. So two new utility irons from Titleist. One looks to be a bit of a chunky one, obviously looks to be a little bit more friendly, a bit higher launching, and then another one's a little bit more of a slimmer compact version, but both hollow head designs, a little bit more forgiveness in mind here, and maybe just a good option for some golfers off the tee who wants to just try and find more fairways, a little bit more accuracy. So we're going to test these. Got GC quad on the floor as always. We're going to test maybe just ball flight, height, peak height of these two irons, and maybe the sort of type of golfers these irons are really aimed at. Okay, so we're going to start off with the chunkier looking one, which is the U510. So quite a big sort of sole that we're seeing on this particular iron, obviously quite a large profile head, so a little bit more probably confident and sparring here, and I'm guessing this is aimed at more of a golfer who wants to try and get that slightly higher ball flight in those longer irons, so maybe struggles with a traditional iron, maybe not quite liking hybrids, so this is a very good alternative. So let's get some shots hit straight away. So I've got a 3-iron in both of these models, and I've got exactly the same shaft, which is a hazardous smoke graphite shaft in both of these, so they're going to be very, very similar, well, exactly the same in terms of that shaft. Obviously there's a lot of different shaft options through fitting process that you can go into these irons, but putting the 510 down by the golf ball, it is, as I just mentioned before, very confident in sparring. It's a big appearance behind the golf ball. The length of the blade from the heel to the toe is pretty large, bit of offset there, thickish top line, and we do see a lot of the back of the club sticking out from that top edge, which I don't personally mind. I think it gives you that confidence that you've got a bit of that backing of the head behind the ball, which probably generally means a little bit more forgiveness. So I don't mind that. Some people might not like that, but it is quite a nice looking iron, I think. Very confident spine, like I say. So let's get this first one hit. That's a nice strike. Just slightly up that left-hand side, but that flew pretty nicely there. So quite a positive crack to that. You could definitely notice that it's that hollow construction. We're seeing that acoustics that maybe just sort of, what's the right word, that echoes. You just hear that, you just know it's sort of that hollowness inside the actual head with that sound, a little bit more high pitched. It's a nice shot. Lovely flight. Feels really nice off the club face there. It feels pretty powerful there. We'll obviously have a look at some numbers and spin and distance, everything towards the end, but quite a nice sort of penetrating flight, but does feel quite easy to sort of get launched in the air. And to be fair, those probably the first two there were, if I'm going to get really picky, we're just fractionally low on the strike, so they'll probably just pop a little bit lower than a central strike. That's lovely. It feels really quite easy to hit, if I'm going to use that word easy. We use that quite loosely there, but I think it, you know, it just seems to really ping off the club face quite effortless in a way. So with that larger profile head there, and we've got some tungsten weighting, which is very low and deep in this club face in the head itself, so obviously a lot more towards that sole. Again, lower they put that weight in that tungsten, the easier it is to get that ball sort of launching up and away. So these are available in a 1-iron, believe it or not, and I'd love to get my hands on that, which I'll have to do some like sweet talking Titleist, but a 1-iron, a 2-iron, a 3-iron and a 4-iron. I say this is a 3-iron, this lofting in at 20 degrees of loft. So some really good options for you know, in those long iron replacements, whether you're wanting that sort of like more of that lower stingy sort of ball flight with that 1-iron, which, you know, not many golfers will be able to hit that, I'm guessing, but obviously there'll be some there that'll really sort of fit the box. And then obviously into that sort of 4-iron, you know, guys maybe get into that 4-iron area, the traditional iron, as I said earlier, struggle to just sort of get that consistency of that strike, consistency of that flight, and then also that front to back dispersion can struggle. So this is where I think this iron will sit in very nicely indeed. Okay, fractionally up that right, literally fractionally, so gone a little bit higher, just a little bit more, that club face just been a fraction more open there, wasn't the sweetest of connections. I'm just going to hit one more shot, so we'll hit 5 shots with each club. That's lovely. That's a great flight. A little bit higher, that one. Good, better strike, and looks to be a little bit more carry with that. Okay, Right, so there's the U510, the bulkier of the two models. So let's jump into the 500. We'll see how that compares with the look behind the golf ball and also some ball flight numbers. Okay, so straight away here with the 500, we're seeing a much more compact head and a fantastic looking head, if I'm going to be honest. Putting it down by the ball, definitely not as confident inspiring as what we're seeing with the 510 because the blade length from heel to toe much shorter, much less offset there. The top edge is a little bit thinner, so it's probably a little bit more medium on that top edge. It's obviously not very thin, and we've just about seeing a fraction of the club head just poking out, so much less again than we're seeing in the 510. So very much aimed for probably that golfer who wants that smaller look, that more compact look. Maybe the guy who's playing the MB irons or the CB and doesn't want a huge jump from that long iron into the utility iron, maybe like the 510, which is then just goes very big and bulky and offset. So I think very much sort of blends into the player who, like say, who's playing those blades or possibly MBs there. So looks fantastic behind the golf ball, as we'd expect from Titleist. They always make great looking golf clubs. Again, this is a 3-iron. That's a great opening shot. And to be honest, that's not much lower than what I've just seen with a 510. Looks to be maybe a little bit more piercing on that first hit, first instincts, but flight trajectory seems very similar. So we're seeing the very similar technology that we're seeing in the 510 with this 500. We've got the high density tungsten weighting in there. Again, that's helping with that little bit of launch, a little bit of forgiveness on those miss hits, maybe a little bit less twisting, as maybe we just sort of missed the centre of the club face fractionally. So again, it's making it obviously forgiving there. We've got sort of a forged, a very thin forged face here, so again helping with a bit of ball speed, but also trying to keep a little bit of that sort of forged feel that you'd sort of expect from a you know, a player's club like a Titleist iron. Again, fractionally toey, just up that right a touch. Actually, no, it's not. It's absolutely bullet straight. We've got a little bit of a left to right wind out there, so I've just seen that peel a little bit. Obviously, the quad doesn't measure the wind, so it's showing that was actually in a very nice sort of ball flight there. But again, I don't see it any lower than the 510 at the moment. It's a good flight, really good flight there, just fraction up that left, but stunning ball flight. You know, I think that feels, off the club face, the sound, the acoustics there, it's not quite as high pitched as what we're seeing in the 510. That's possibly, you know, the hollow head. If it's a bigger hollowed out section in that head, I guess in the acoustics, the noise vibrations are going to rattle around in that bigger space a lot more, maybe creating that higher pitch sort of noise. But this still has that little hollowy feel to it, which I don't mind, to be honest. It's sort of, I think you're going to get that with most hollow construction irons, unless they're really sort of filled with a substance that's going to deaden that sort of noise or that vibration. But to be honest, it feels really good. Got no issues with the feel of that. Beautiful, beautiful. It's high, you know. It just gets up and out there very easily. It just, as I said, probably just doesn't look quite as confident, inspiring. It feels like you just got to concentrate, focus a little bit more, because obviously the head size is that bit small, but it's a great looking head. I really like the look of that head, to be honest. It's slightly probably on the smaller side of most utility irons that you're going to sort of see, but again, it's going to tick a box for some golfers who don't want to look at too big a club head. Stunning, really nice. Just fractured up that right hand side with that one. Just cut that one a little bit heely. Just felt like I got slightly ahead of that, so I've just squeezed that up that right fractionally. Okay, so there's 5 shots hit with both of the models, the 500 and the 510. Let's go look at some numbers and see if we can split that ball flight. Visually, to me, it looks very similar, but let's see if there's anything different on the quad readings. Okay, so just before we go into the actual data, I'm just looking on the right hand side here with the dispersion. So we can see The red ball flight, or the red dots, was where the 510 finished, so the slightly larger head, and the blue was where the 500 sort of finished. So obviously this that furthest right one with the blue was that last one I just hit. Just leave that out a little bit more, probably the weakest one of all the shots I've sort of hit there. So apart from that, they're all sort of similar. I did have one miss with the 510. To the right, we've seen a couple of misses to the left, which typically my shot, a couple of nice straight ones with that 510 also. So not massive amounts difference in that dispersion that we're sort of seeing. Let's look at the numbers. Okay, so we've got 510 on the top, so we see ball speed 141.6, 142, so identical on that ball speed as it coming off the face, not seeing a lot of difference there. Launch is absolutely identical, 11.5 on average, and spin, see 3218 against 3492, so little bit higher with spinning with the 500, but literally, you know, that's just going to be my strike moving it around. The last one there was a bit necky, you can see that just pops that spin up a little bit more. I had a slightly lower spinning one there, which I did miss a little bit more left there, so that pulls that down. So, you know, you could do that test again, and that number could just flip around. So I think both of them, you know, are in around that sort of 3,000 to sort of 3,500 sort of area, which for that 3-iron, I'm sort of quite happy with. I think as a better player, you know, and probably the guys that would be going into that a little bit more, or the golfers that will be going into that a little bit more, will be manipulating ball flight a little bit more through setup, through ball position, through what they're doing, you know, leading with the handle, trying to cover it a little bit more. You know, they'll start to drop this launch down a touch more, dropping that spin down, and just get a very different ball flight out there. So looking at peak height, 29 yards against 30, so it was actually the 500, which you would sort of say more compact head, you would actually get a slightly lower flight, was actually 1 yard more, so pretty identical again, and the number in terms of carry, again, identical, 226 against 224. Right, okay guys, so there we go. There's the two new utility irons from Titleist, U500 and U510. So I think the two really, really good irons, definitely hitting a different type of golf. For the bigger appearance one, I think would be more for that, maybe that low to sort of mid-high handicapper, or sorry, mid-handicapper should I say. I think you get some of the low handicappers probably put the 1-iron in the 510, you know, that bigger appearance. 1-iron we know is tougher, it's 16 degrees of loft in the 510, but that bigger appearance I think will just give you that little bit of confidence. So I can see the lower handicap golfers possibly putting that in as an option, even maybe the 2-iron. And then maybe the sort of more mid-handicappers might be putting the sort of 3-4-iron in the bag, as I say before, you know, replacements for those traditional 3 and 4 irons, which are quite tough to hit. And maybe some golfers struggle a little bit with a hybrid, just maybe in that shot shape. The 500, obviously a lot more compact, very different look. That's obviously the biggest difference between those two irons, is really the look and appearance down behind that golf ball. I think looking at the numbers there and those tests I've just done with 5 shots each, there's not a lot of difference of that ball flight, the launch, the speed, the peak height, the spin, very, very similar, and also that distance. But obviously, you know, the player who maybe looks at more that knee to head might feel emotionally like they can manipulate that ball flight a lot more than possibly the 510 that's a little bit more geared, maybe just one dimensional in terms of hitting it up. So, but you know, I don't know, you tell me, you comment down below, let me know your thoughts. As always interested to hear what you guys think. You know, would you go for the more confident sparring look of the 510, or would you like that more compact look of the 500? Comment down below. Appreciate you watching the videos as always. If you enjoy the content and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Hit that bell for notifications of any future videos. As soon as it lands on my channel, you'll be one of the very first ones to watch it. Also, hook up on social media platforms, both Instagram and Twitter, and both handles there are @MNGolfCoach. And hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.